We play better. Let's go take down the champ.
An Ultiworld subscription gets you closer to the players and personalities you care about with game video, in-depth written and video analysis,
He's going to take off deep, but what he does is very simple.
documentary shorts,
And we've played Brute Squad before, and it just feels a little bit harder to lose this year.
and a whole lot more. To get your subscription or learn more, go to ultiworld.com/subscribe.
Welcome to Ultiworld's coverage of the 2019 International Club Championships here at the U.S. Open in Blaine, Minnesota. We have yet another good one here in the semifinals round between Boston Brute Squad, the #1 team in the Ultiworld Power Rankings, versus Washington, D.C. Scandal. With Megan Multeney, I'm Daniel Prentice to bring you this one. Both teams playing for a spot in the championship game tomorrow. Should be a good one. Megan, what are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, I think the question coming into this tournament for Scandal, coming off of their win at the Pro Elite Challenge a few weeks ago, was whether or not they could really hang with the top teams of this division. And they proved that they have that elite caliber in their quarterfinals takedown of reigning national champion San Francisco Fury. It was a little bit of a back and forth game. I think Scandal jumped out to an early lead and then got a little bit lackadaisical in the middle there, but were able to pull it out in the end. And so what I'm really looking forward to is seeing them match up against the returning U.S. Open champs here in Boston, Brute Squad. These two teams haven't yet met this season, so I think there's a lot of going to be kind of feeling each other out early on. But it's bound to be an exciting game.
And Megan, they may not have met before this weekend, but in fact they did play in pool play, and in that one Washington D.C. Scandal did jump out to an 8-5 halftime lead before giving up a 5-1 run right at the end. So I think they'll probably want a little revenge. We'll have some confidence from that Fury win that you mentioned. Brute Squad in the end had a relatively comfortable final score line against the German national team, winning that one at 15-10 in quarterfinals. We see them in white starting on offense. Alana Schwamm coming underneath and then going with a big backhand to Jessie Grignon-Thomas. She drops it to newcomer Claire Trope. Amber Sinecrope now with the disc as Brute Squad really immediately got into that red zone, now having to be a little bit more patient. Claudia Tajima now. She gets it back to Sinecrope, who holsters to continue. Able to slice it up to Trope, and then Trope with an easy backhand to Becky Malinowski in the end zone for the score. So quick at first, then the patience necessary from Brute Squad to get the game's opening score.
That's great patience from Brute Squad's O-line there. You mentioned Claire Trope, newcomer to this Brute Squad team, but certainly no newcomer to the big game stage. She's played on U.S. national teams, took her college team, Dartmouth, to a national championship this year. She played for Riot last year and so competed in the finals of this very tournament against the team she's now playing. Obviously she might be young, but no surprise to see her out there contributing in this first point for Boston.
Certainly a player with experience beyond her years playing at this level and having an early impact for her new team in this one. Now the Scandal O-line gets to go out there and try to match Brute's hold. Brute Squad, of course, a team known for their defense, dubbed the Boston D Party. Their fearsome defensive pressure, really one of the top units in the sport, has made them national championship contenders for the last 4 seasons, 4 straight appearances in the national championship game, winning the first 2 and losing each of the last 2 on double game point to San Francisco Fury. See an early big forehand from Carolyn Normile looking for Katie Forth downfield, a pair of defenders in the area, and it's Caitlin Lee who gets the hand to it to knock it away.
That was the exact same look we saw from Scandal's O-line in their quarterfinal game. That one a little more successful than this shot right here. As you said, that stifling Boston defense coming up big early.
It's Tulsa Douglas swinging to Angela Zhu on that first pass. Zhu now looking to get it back to Douglas, and she's able to. Sophie Hulbert fighting her way underneath to complete that pass. Zhu able to complete the swim move to gain power position. Now going for the big forehand, looking for Rachel Kramer. And it's in fact Cami Groom who gets there. Got a hand to the disc, but unable to make the catch. Definitely think Zhu was looking to hit Kramer on the pass, but Cami Groom, known for her speed, was the one who was able to sprint and had the best opportunity at it. And Groom went for the clap catch, just unable to squeeze it. Disc back in play with Sarah Lord. We have a pick downfield. That looked like contact on the mark from Kramer reset the stall, so it'll be on 3 for Lord once the disc is back in play.
Still not a lot of options, though, downfield. Boston doing a nice job to seal all of these throwing lanes. As Scandal is working it slightly upwind now with the wind moving left to right across your screen.
That throw from Normile a little bit behind Neda Tremonte. She can't hang on. So another break chance for Brute. Stall getting up on Zhu. She goes to the offhand and finds Lee. And an easy continue to the end zone finds Lauren Sadler. So Brute follows up the opening hold with the game's first break.
And Scandal showing a little bit more, a few more issues connecting with their cutters downfield under that more increased pressure that Boston is bringing. You know, I think, as we said, we were not seeing them try anything that looks radically different from what we saw in their quarterfinals start, in which they executed really, as we said, rather flawlessly. They're just, you know, an overthrow here, a drop there. These aren't necessarily run-through Ds for Brute, but they're certainly generating the pressure that is resulting in those missed executions.
Yeah, and we saw some miscues from Scandal in the second half of that Fury game. You know, Fury, I think, started the game without the defensive pressure they would have liked to have started with. And then once they were able to ramp it up, they did give Scandal a few more problems, and we're seeing that here early in this one. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to adjust.
Scandal looks like they're bringing out veteran Kath Rathcliffe onto this O-line to join Carolyn Normile. Her kind of solid handling presence and really impressive break throws, hoping to open things up a little bit for these cutters who are finding trouble finding space downfield.
And there is Ratcliffe getting the centering pass from Lord. Gonna sweep the forehand back over to Lord. And there a big layout block by Courtney Verhallen.
And they just read that the entire way. Incredibly impressive athletic performance there to get that block.
That's Juliana Warfley coming back the other way. She finds Vicky Chen, who will have the disc once player zooms after the stoppage downfield. Chen dropping it back to Warfley, who's able to find Cassie Wong.
That was a lovely little triple cut there from Cassie Wong to set up this third break in a row for Boston. Excuse me, second break in a row.
Break,
third
yep,
point in a row, second break.
Easy throw for Wong to Nicole Canning. So everything coming up Boston's way in these first few points.
Gonna get another look at that really impressive D. The athleticism to finish the play, but really the intelligence to keep looking at the disc even as her cutter is peeling off that cut away from the handler.
Verhallen, not one of the bigger names on this Brute Squad team, but they are definitely one of those cogs that Brute can send out and know that they're going to get lockdown defense from them.
And Brute, you know, they're I think it'll be interesting to see throughout this game how kind of the depth of both of these rosters match up against each other. You know, it's something that DC's coach, Dutchy Getsgary, has said is that, you know, time and time again, when they're really relying on the depth of their roster to carry them deep into these tournaments, you know, they're able to send out kind of sweep after sweep of cutters who are going to cut deep over and over again, and defenders who are going to go out and take up some of the more challenging matchups on the other team. And Brute is definitely a team that's equal to that and similarly relies on being able to have multiple waves of defensive players that can go out and keep that pressure up from point to point so that you don't really ever have a release valve.
Yeah, it's something that they expect from every player on the roster, is to be able to play their brand of defense. It's certainly what they have built their identity around in the club the last handful of seasons, in which they've certainly been one of the top teams in the women's division. I think they probably would have liked to have won another championship or two in these last 4 seasons, being so close these last 2 years. But, I mean, 4 straight appearances in the national championship, you know, still very impressive.
This is actually Boston Brute Squad's 20th year in existence. They've had a run at the top recently, but it's by no means kind of their first forays into the women's division.
See Tulsa Douglas on the pole for Brute Squad. It's going to be Raman Fenig, the first time we've seen her pulled over to the offensive line for Scandal. Katie Forth gains midfield. Tremonte looking for the end zone, and that is completed. Scandal finally able to get on the board. Nice pass there into the end zone from Tremonte. Scandal cleans up the offensive act for that one.
And that's exactly what they needed to do. Let their offense go out and do what they know they can do, execute, find players, especially being able to find your first goal with your in an away cut, being able to create that depth of space. You know, if you can early on make a team respect you, you're going to open up a lot of things underneath and kind of make your offensive path a little bit easier going forward. So nice kind of getting back on track offensive point for DC.
Now they get to send the D line back out there. We saw them able to get breaks early against Fury. Now they will need to get a couple to get this game back on serve.
Goal was thrown by Nada Tremonti, number 11.
Take a look at the Brute Squad O-line. Anchored in the middle by their pair of handlers, Amber Sinacrope and Claudia Tajima. Those two have been mainstays in the Brute Squad backfield for quite some time now.
Amber Sinacrope anchoring that line basically since she was in high school.
And Sinacrope that catches Fenig's pull, quickly dishes to Tajima and gets it right back. It's like a bit of a zone look from Scandal.
Kind of a 2-3-2, DC keeping 2 players in the deep space. And now they're starting to transition into person.
Lane Cedar making that grab and then hits Schwamm. Schwamm hits Yuga Zhao. And Zhao able to put Sinacrope just on the goal line. She tried to leap it into the end zone. Observer rules her out. No problem, though. Sinacrope with the easy little dish to Tajima. That's textbook offense for Brute Squad.
And you called them out at the beginning of that point, and, you know, clear that in that red zone, they're going to be the ones taking charge, running the show. Really nothing from Scandal's D-line that point that gave them much trouble, much to think about. Even, you know, there was almost no kind of pausing even to try to assess what was going on with that 2-3-2 look. They kind of shredded to start and then took a breather right outside the end zone. It's kind of exactly what you want to see from your O-line is, can you move quickly, shred that zone, and then as soon as you get beyond it, can you take a second? Because it's kind of in those moments of transition when unforced turnovers are most likely to happen.
So 4-1 Brute here through the first 5 points. Be Juliana Warfley on the pole. Juliana Warfley just got back to the States after winning her second gold medal with the U24 women's team. After having graduated from Dartmouth a couple of years ago, winner of 2 national championships in college, and her teammate at Dartmouth, Caitlin Lee, just missing that layout block.
That Dartmouth program really contributing a lot of bright young talent to this Brute Squad team over the years.
Definitely. Handful of players on those championship rosters filling out the ranks for Brute Squad. As you see that throw from Katie Forth just beyond the reach of her diving target in the end zone, trying to find Casey Gorman downfield.
And that's a tough throw to make there. You'd almost hope that your player would kind of think twice about that and step around and throw the flick that gives you just a little bit more touch, a little bit more of an opportunity for your cutter to find that angle.
Warfley unable to keep that one in bounds from Aaron Ray. Sarah Lord with it on the far sideline. Warfley's on the mark. Normile has a free reset when she needs it, but she's going to the end zone looking for Gorman. Sophie Holbert in the area. Gorman with the box out. Holbert, I think, going over the back of Gorman. Looks like we have a foul called.
Foul, no contest. So it's going to be your disc here. Defense will tap, and then we can move to the front.
Yeah,
so you can pick up the disc.
Gorman did a really great job of getting to the space early and then using that body position to force the defender to have to foul her, basically, to have a shot at the disc.
Yeah, and there was no contest, as you heard from the observer from Holbert. And we have a foul called in the end zone, it looks like. So the disc coming back to Gorman. It's back in play. Quick little toss to Forth in the front of the end zone for the score. So Scandal, after the turnover, do get the hold to stay within just a couple of breaks.
Be curious to see what Scandal comes up with here. They're now going to be going slightly downwind. Their 2-3-2 that they came out with last point was a little too loose, a little too kind of free in the middle to give Brute Squad's handler squad many fits. So it'll be interesting to kind of see. We know that they have a few other zones that we saw in quarterfinals. They have a couple things that they can play with. But imagine when you have a player like Robin Fenning, with her teammate she brought over from Heist with her this season. In Peruka, you've got 2 really strong deeps, and one of them, as soon as you get that D in the hands of Robin Fenning, then she can just jacket the whole length of the field. So, they have a lot of tools at their disposal in terms of, having zones that can be perhaps more effective than other teams.
Certainly. Trope. Tough pass there, asking a lot of Schwam to try to beat Amy Zhou.
Just popping up a little bit as we see it getting a little swirlier down here. And that upwind throw, not enough zip on it to bring it into Schwam.
So Fennig has the disc on the near sideline. Great chance to get one of these breaks back for Scandal, but that swing leads to a lot of contact between Peruka and Cami Groom. Peruka looks shaken up on the play.
I didn't have a great view. Was it dangerous or not? Was it dangerous? I couldn't tell.
Kind of hear the observers have a conversation with each other.
Hey, we're still backing downfield. We got to be tight.
1.
So no blue card doled out, but definitely some heavy contact between those two. Fennig now looking to the end zone for Joe. Tough play for Joe. Did a nice job just being able to get to that one, really unable to make the catch.
That disc really came in at a tough angle.
So Scandal can't take advantage of the short field opportunity. It's Sinnercrope to start the second possession of the point for Brute Squad. Zoo knifes that one through to Groom. Schwam going long, looking for Cedar. Peruka in the area. Again, contact. No call, though. Another Brute Squad turnover. Good defense from Peruka deep. Not sure if she got a block on it, but her presence certainly enough to get the turnover. Fennig going right back the other way. Able to hit Joe in stride for big yardage. And just like that, Scandal back in scoring territory. Missed throw from Joe, easily intercepted by Groom. And now Becky Malinowski unmarked, dropping it back to Schwam. Sinnercrope with that trademark around backhand to hit Groom. Pick called downfield. Gonna halt Brute Squad's momentum for now. Nice snag by Sinnercrope. Zoo once again flips it to Groom. Right back to Zoo. And the little tap into the end zone for Cedar. But I think the story of that point will be Scandal's missed opportunities in the other red zone.
I think we also got to hand it to Lane Cedar. She sells out this cut back to the open side so well. Starts that streak, takes one step back, and just completely drops Peruka, making that an easy catch. Yeah, I think to go back to what kind of Scandal was doing, we saw that both times where Boston was starting with the disc, we had both Fennig and Peruka kind of sitting deep and in the rail positions on those cutters, and then bracketing with defenders kind of underneath and in the middle. And they got certainly one big turn off of it where Schwam got a little excited seeing Cedar going and maybe didn't see Peruka in the area. And so I think the takeaway for Scandal is that those kinds of looks are going to generate turns. They just have to be better about converting.
You see Carolyn Normile, number 36 in the middle of your screen. Our player to watch for Scandal had a great game against Fury in quarterfinals, 2 goals and 3 assists, and really was just a great presence in the team's backfield. She was the 2018 Ulti-World College Player of the Year, as well as a mixed national champion with Philadelphia Amp. She's one of those newcomers for Scandal. It's Normale's little dish to Strick that sets up this big throw to Ratcliffe. Nice job running that one down. And then Ratcliffe floats it to the end zone for the score. That's Casey Gorman once again with the goal for Scandal.
That's Gorman involved with all 3 of their goals. She threw 1 assist and caught 2. We don't often get to see Kath Ratcliffe breaking free to be on the receiving end of a huck, but I love that move here. You can see that neither of her defenders were expecting that, and then stepping around with that incredible wingspan and those impressive release points that we've talked about before to set up that easy goal.
See head coach Dutchy Geskier talking to his D-line out there, trying to figure out a way to get a break against Brute Squad. The defense was good enough, as Megan said in the last point, but a couple of red zone D-line turnovers. Definitely not what you're looking for. But again, I think part of that has to go back to what we talked about with what defines this Brute Squad team, which is their defense. And even their O-line, it's a very big matter of pride for them that they play great defense when they do turn it over. You see Tajima with the disc. Looks like a zone again from Scandal.
A little bit of a different look, more of a actual cup. 3 people forcing toward the sidelines. Forcing Brute to lose some yards here.
Yuga Chow able to get open for Tajima, but Brute Squad stuck on that half of the field so far. Tajima was maybe going to swing it to Worfley, but decided against it. Now comes to Worfley as Scandal has switched out of that early zone. Cassie Wong wide open downfield. And now going for a big forehand for Trope, and that is a perfect throw from Cassie Wong. Claire Trope, not one you want to see streaking deep if you're a defense, but that one was pretty easy.
Easy if you're Claire Trope. That was a nasty cut. She was pretty squarely between both Robin Fenning and Austin Peruka. They were talking about who was going to take her on the under, and then she just burned them both deep. And Claire Trope may have, I think at this point, perhaps the fastest top speed in the women's division when she gets going. I know there are a lot of other folks who could give her a run for her money, but
including a couple of her own teammates.
Yeah, Cammie Groom.
Cammie Groom certainly in that conversation. She has very much earned her famous nickname of Zoom Zoom Cammie Groom. And we've seen that a little bit earlier when she almost tracked that one down that was not intended for her. But certainly a very athletic and speedy team across the board, and Trope very much fits right in with her new team in that regard.
We'll see Groom out here on this D-line. She was involved in at least 1 D the last time she was out, almost getting 2.
Yeah, Groom, one of those players where it doesn't really, one, you're not going to get a whole lot of separation from her ever, and even when you do have some, you probably have less than you think because her makeup speed is just at such an elite level. And that pull sails out of bounds, excuse me. So a good field position to start for Ratcliffe and the Scandal O-line. Early under to 4th. Strick back to Ratcliffe. There's Nada Tremonte coming under a quick dish to Sarah Lord.
You see Amber Syndicrope marking really wide to try to prevent those arounds, but Ratcliffe takes the step back and finds them anyways.
Ratcliffe bringing it back across to Lord, marked by Nicole Canning, who was one of the breakout stars of the U.S. Open last year. Tremonte saving that one from a Cammie Groom block. And now she goes up the line to Ratcliffe. And they continue to the end zone for the goal. Caroline Tornquist, the youngest player on the team, making that cut for the score.
And that's Kath Ratcliffe finding the end zone for her second assist of the game. I think, we're seeing her really taking over when Scandal's cutters are finding a little bit of difficulty working in those tight spaces downfield, and she's just creating space with her throws. She's kind of opening up things that Boston is doing their darndest to try to dictate otherwise. Just a really nice job of getting them out of tight spaces and then just being really, really confident in their red zone.
Brute Squad offense back out there, yet to give a break to the Scandal D-line.
Not that Scandal's D-line hasn't had their opportunities. And if I were Dutchie, I'd be talking about, what is going to be that go-to play once we get that turnover that's going to ensure we don't have to be throwing, 40-yard blades or hammers into the end zone. Like, what's going to be the play that takes care of business?
It's Chow picking up the pull and centering to Tajima. Tajima goes across the field to Grignon Thomas. Tulsa Douglas looking downfield for Cedar, but that one a bit too far into the end zone. Cedar had separation back there, but Douglas unable to get the accuracy on that throw.
And we'll see a little bit of a side stack look, which is kind of the first we'll be seeing that from Scandal. You can see just how much of the field they're giving Robin Fenning to work with.
And it's Joe, the primary cut. Not the throw Fennig wanted. A little shorter, I think, of how far she wanted to go downfield. Joe didn't have a ton of separation, so it's going to take really a perfect throw from Fennig to make that completion. A little floaty from Douglas, but plenty of separation from Trope underneath. Oh, and throwing into traffic, but Ingrid Pettersson had her head turned the wrong way. She'd been facing the thrower. She would have a good chance of that block. As it is, Boston holds on to it. Chow with a few fakes before going to Cedar, who saves it with the layout. Grignon Thomas trying to find that lane to the end zone. Quick exchange with Cedar, and they're able to hit the break side, and then the quick continue to Tajima. So again, Scandal is able to get a turnover, but as has been the case so far for them in this game, they've not been able to capitalize on the opportunity as Brute Squad gets another hold.
That's Claudia Tajima with her second goal of this game. But again, we're seeing a lot of that offensive movement around the end zone. Actually, the work of Lane Cedar, we saw, she had that goal earlier, nice bit of cutting, and had that impressive layout to save possession there. So maybe not the name on the end of the play, but certainly contributing in a big way to having that nice, easy score toward the break side.
It looks like we've had a timeout called here. This Brute Squad just a point away from taking half. So I think the difference, when we saw Scandal play that great game against Fury this morning, really the difference is that the big plays just haven't been there for them. They got momentum early with a couple of catches on maybe some 50-50 passes, completing some hammers, and none of those plays have really been there for them in this game. They've struggled with the long ball as well, which is a pretty big part of the offense in the previous round. So I wonder if they're going to keep going back to that and hope that it just starts to click as they know it can, or if they're going to make some adjustments, try a different way of getting into the end zone, particularly when their D-line gets in.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to how important just the first few points can be. In the quarterfinals game, Scandal successfully came out and hit deep shot after deep shot kind of right off the bat. And they really put Fury on their heels and forced them to have to try different looks, and it really put Scandal in the driver's seat. And the fact that they kind of tried to go with that same play and turned it over, kind of into double coverage with this Brute Squad D on the first point, it's made them a little tentative on their deep shots and forced them to kind of play in these more high pressure, smaller parts of the field, exactly where Brute Squad wants. And so it's made them, having to react as opposed to dictate what's happening.
And it is the first time that we've seen Scandal in this kind of spot this tournament. Even in the first game in pool play, as I said, Scandal was up early in that one, up 8-5. So they will be able to test and see how they play when facing a deficit. Brute Squad, I think, will be very hungry for a break to really give themselves a big lead going into halftime. Nice gainer to fourth. And she's looking for even more downfield. Great throw and a great grab by Gorman, puts Scandal on the goal line. Doing a juggle by Tremonte, but able to hang on. And then she flips it to the end zone to finish off the move. Normile, the handler, showing her ability to cut as well, getting open the front cone for the Scandal hold.
And that's a play that we saw Scandal actually find a lot of success with in their quarterfinals game as well, where you send a couple players deep right away, and then you send the speedy Kate forth across and set her up to hit that deep shot to Gorman. They executed that, in their previous game, and it's, I think as a coach, that's a smart play call, right? Like when your O-line is struggling, like go back to, like a play that is going to work every time.
And Gorman is a name that I feel like I have said quite a bit in this game. She had a good game against Fury as well. She's been a player, she had a really solid role on the team a season ago, really just a player that kind of does everything right. And another player that does just about everything right is Cammie Groom for Brute Squad. The 2016 Ulti World Player of the Year in the Women's Club Division. Pretty good. She's been in the conversation every year since then, being the first runner-up in 2017 and 2018. So Cammie Groom, consistently one of the two best players in the Women's Club Division the last 3 years. Very athletic family. Her sister Shay plays for Reign FC in the NWSL. That's the Pro Women's Soccer League in the United States. She also, if that wasn't enough, is studying law at the University of Michigan.
Still finds time for those sprint workouts, though.
Certainly. Well, she's certainly pretty good at them. Naturally, very, very fast player. And that has been a weapon Brute Squad has used very well for years.
But I think, it's easy to talk about Cammie Groom's speed.
And Becky Malinowski, a pretty speedy player in her own right. Lots of separation to get open for Guignon Thomas deep. I think we'll have plenty of chances to talk about Cammie Groom in the second half, but impressive connection between her two teammates there as Brute Squad caps a very impressive half, particularly on the offensive side of things. They will take an 8-5 lead into the break. Scandal with a lot of work to do in the second half. We'll be back for the second half in just a few moments.
Every time the pressure rises, we play better. Let's go, take down the trail.
An Ultiworld subscription gets you closer to the players and personalities you care about with game video, in-depth written and video analysis,
He's going to take off deep, but what he does is very simple.
documentary shorts,
And we've played Brute Squad before, and it just feels a little bit harder to lose this year.
and a whole lot more. To get your subscription or learn more, go to ultiworld.com/subscribe.
We're back here for the second half of this semifinals matchup between Boston Brute Squad and Washington, D.C. Scandal. Semifinals here at the ICC International Club Championships of the U.S. Open. Pretty thorough performance for Brute Squad in the first half. Scandal did have a few break chances, Megan, unable to capitalize. Going to have a lot of work to do here in the second half to get back in this game.
Yeah, I think Brute has really never not looked in control. Even when they have had turnovers, which, you know, have been a disc popping up here or a small execution there, their immediacy of applying intense defensive pressure from their O-line, I think, is one of the most impressive things about this squad. And so they don't, you know, like turning it over is not some big, you know, mental to do, right? They're just like, great, now I'm on defense. And we saw them get those blocks back right away. So, you know, I think right now Boston looking both more like the more mentally tough and the crisper team in terms of actual execution of plays. And, you know, I think it's been a hot weekend. It's starting to get late in the day. Both these teams had off for 2 hours. So, you know, there's definitely some differences just in terms of how they're managing their energy right now. And I think one of the things Scandal will want to be thinking about, and maybe Dutchy's already thinking about, is how do they find that kind of pace that they were playing with in quarterfinals and bring that to this game.
It's been a very stark contrast in seeing how their D-line has been able to attack when they do have those break opportunities. It's basically just been Robin Fenig bombing it on his first attempt. You know, as soon as they get the disc, no real offense to speak of. So I'm curious to see what adjustments they make when that side of the disc has the disc to try to get back in this game.
Yeah, I think early on in quarterfinals, they actually had cutters going, and right now Robin's just trying to throw people open.
Yeah, so in just a moment, we will see how they do adjust for the second half. We'll be back in just a second.
Back to 2013.
Now, back here for the second half, just about ready to get back to play. As you see the Brute Squad D-line out there. Tulsa Douglas just about set to pull to get us started here for the second half. Pretty big sized hole for Scandal to dig out of. Down 2 full breaks and then the half break that Brute Squad got to start the game, starting on offense. One thing I did want to note, we saw no Leanne Hoffman for Boston Brute Squad in that half. So they have been thus impressive without one of their top offensive players. Unfortunately, could not get any information from the team, electing not to share why Hoffman is out of this game. She is cleated up, so I do wonder if this is a more meaningful game, if she would be suited up. But
more meaningful than semifinals, the U.S. Open?
There is one tournament, I think, that Brute Squad does value a little bit more, as we see an early deep shot from Scandal looking for Casey Gorman, who's been successful down to that area of the field all game long, is here as well. And then quick red zone offense. Gorman, after catching the hook, initiates the quick give and go. So just how Scandal would have wanted to start the half with a quick hold.
That's Gorman getting on the end of her third score. And I think, I can't remember if this is absolutely correct, but almost all of them have been her initially going for a huck, dishing it off, and then getting it right back. The Gorman show right now is all about clinic about getting to the space first, skying your defender, and then while they're still reeling from having missed out on that defensive opportunity, beating them to the front cone.
Yeah, definitely been a very strong individual performance from Gorman. She will hope that her teammates can take some motivation from that. They didn't grab any breaks against Brute Squad in the first half. Maybe they should think about putting Gorman out on the D-line, because it seems that any time anyone throws it to her, she's going to come down with it. And that was the problem for Scandal. I believe 0 for 3 on break opportunities in the first half. Robin Fenig, the pull that she turns over just a bit too much. So Trope will be able to take that one to the brick mark.
Boston running a split stack here, finding Cedar on the far side.
Cedar in her first year with Brute Squad after having played the last few years with Atlanta Ozone, as we see Lauren Allen stuff Synchrope at the throw with a foot block.
My goodness.
Generating the short field turnover. Let's see if Scandal's able to take advantage of this one. Lauren Boyle throwing into traffic. Pruka saves it. Quick drop to Pedersen. Boyle gives it to Fenig. A little scoop back to Boyle. Those two doing the work right now. Just resetting the stall count as Scandal tries to find their way further downfield. Fenig going to try to bend a big forehand to the back corner for Pruka. That's a tough grab, but she toes the line. Austin Pruka, what a catch in the end zone. Scandal gets their first break of the game just when they wanted it to start the second half.
And it's no surprise that getting on the end of that break is Austin Pruka receiving a pass from her years-long teammate on Heist, Robin Fenning. Get another look at that foot block. And such great technique here, such body awareness to find the disc as it's peeling over Pruka's shoulder and find that sideline and get that toe down. She almost actually looks like she gets both feet down.
I couldn't believe that she even made the catch. I mean, that's such a tough throw to be able to reel in. And I saw Fenig kind of looking at it initially. I think maybe the double clutch the first time. I thought, oh, there's no way she could possibly go for that throw. Then she goes for it, and Pruka up to the task, not only to make the catch over the shoulder, but to toe the line as well.
Well, definitely made it a harder task, right? The first time Fenning looked, there wasn't a defender in the area, but the defender kind of noticed that first time. And so the second throw actually had to bend around the defender and stay in bounds.
And we talked in the first half about how Scandal wasn't quite able to come up with any of those big plays like they had in quarterfinals against Fury. That certainly was a big one there. We'll see if they can turn that into some real momentum. Still needing a couple breaks. We're going to take this lead against Brute Squad, but you have to get the first one to get a couple. And Tajima going over the top of the defense to Malinowski. Fenig closes. Not sure she got a hand to it, but the late pressure from Fenig able to create the turnover. So Scandal looking at another break opportunity here. Fenig hitting Zhou. Scandal working their way closer to the end zone. Akina Young. Back to Fenig. Lisa Kowalski able to get fingers to it, unable to make the grab. So Scandal wasteful with that red zone opportunity, but really pretty impressive Brute Squad defense, giving up nothing easy to Scandal. So the offense for Boston will take over. Juliana Warfully finding Malinowski. Malinowski looking downfield for Trope, and that's a perfect throw. Trope able to run onto it. And Trope going to continue that move to Cammie Groom. If you throw it to Groom in space, it's going to work a lot of the time. It does there for the Brute Squad hold.
And some of Brute Squad's top speed on display that point. Becky Malinowski putting just enough edge on it to set Trope out into space. Let's get another look at that pressure that Tajima applied for that Scandal turnover. It's heartbreaking, right on the goal step of their second break. But as we said, this Brute O-line not afraid to apply pressure when they've had to play defense, and Trope finding Groom, making it look easy. Just did 70 yards just like that.
Scandal will, of course, be rueful that they didn't get the break, but I think have to take some confidence getting able to get a turn for the second point in a row, having that opportunity. They'll need to get their holds throughout to stay within that striking distance, but definitely an improved defensive effort from what we saw through most of the first half for Scandal.
You know, and those defensive efforts, even if they don't result in a break, can start adding up. You know, you get a foot block on, you know, a centering handler, you get a touch on a disc going to a cutter, and those cutters, people are gonna think twice before making those riskier decisions they've been feeling pretty confident about up to that point.
Ratcliffe hits fourth. Fourth looking for Strick deep. She's got the steps. Owen's able to get both hands on it. You can see the frustration there. Player like Kayla Strick expects herself to make that catch 10 out of 10 times. Tough throw from fourth, making her leap and having to attack it rather than, you know, being able to run onto it. But still probably a catch that she expects to make every time. So Brute Squad will have the disc looking to reopen that 3-goal advantage the moment they're deep in their own end zone for that completion from Megan Wilson to Lee. Nice inside forehand from Lee to hit Vicky Negus. Lee winding up for a big forehand, looking for Canning downfield. A pair of defenders in the area. Kath Ratcliffe goes up. I think she got the highest. Looks like we're going to have a foul call from Canning on the play.
I thought I went up into that space. Yeah. Into that open space, but
Okay. No. I think no foul. I think you're right.
No call? All right. No call? All right.
So Strick getting in there, get a little bit of redemption for her bobbled catch in the end zone moments earlier.
And I think that's a good no call from Canning. Nice help defense from Ratcliffe and Strick downfield to get the disc back. Tornquist making that grab, giving it right back to Ratcliffe.
This Canning mark is really limiting what Ratcliffe's space able to find. It's a really smart matchup.
Canning definitely one of the premier handler defenders in the division. Play it comes to a stop. Looks like Lord and Wilson maybe in disagreement about the mark.
yes, Tulsa. Yes, Grace.
Fortunately unable to listen in. And it was a foul from Wilson on the mark, so the stall is reset.
Brute Squad going with a pretty straight up mark here, really only allowing for horizontal passes, making cutters cut those extra 10 yards all the way to the sideline just to find some separation.
Vast majority of the Scandal throws in this possession have been resets. Here now trying to finally get out of the backfield. Nice grab by Tremonte under heavy duress from Lee. Tornquist now marked by Wong. Lord with it once again as we have another stoppage downfield.
I like this defensive look from Brute, going pretty flat, forcing their cutters to cut in a more horizontal fashion, which is a more dangerous place to be cutting.
Tornquist beats the defense underneath to get Scandal near the red zone. Normal swinging it to Strick. Strick to Tremonte, to the end zone, to Tornquist for the score. My goodness, Brute Squad made them work hard for that one, but Scandal does survive and they get the hold.
Yeah, I think Brute Squad's D could actually take that away as, if they didn't get the break, but I think that if you're that line, you're feeling like that's a win for you. You made those cutters work incredibly hard. You forced them into tight situations. Caitlin Lee almost comes up with this block. And that was, if you're an O-line, you don't want to have to work that hard for a point. It's hot out here. The sun is beating down. It's the second game of the day. Like, Brute Squad's defense should feel like that was a successful point for them.
Definitely gave Scandal everything they could handle, but also impressed by Scandal once they got the disc back to be able to survive that pressure, complete all those really challenged resets. And as you mentioned, that grab by Tremonte to beat Lee to save it. At this point, I think Scandal has to be happy with just about any kind of hold that they can get, whether it's pretty or not.
D-line still on the hunt for an equalizing break here.
They came close last time they were out on the field. Been able to generate turnovers each of the last 2 points. Tajima going for it all, looking for Grignon Thomas. Didn't have the hang time to give her cutter time to get to it. So for the third straight point with the Scandal D-line on the field, they will have a chance at a break. Amy Zhou making that grab marked by Schwam. Able to hit Fennig on the up line, and she's always going to try to take advantage of that power position. Looking for Lauren Allen in the end zone. Big layout block to save the score.
Oh my, Grignon Thomas gets huge in the end zone.
Jessie Grignon Thomas with the defensive play of the game this far to save that score, get the disc back for her offense.
We've said it before, this Brute Squad O-line plays D with the most tenacious of them. But the plays are not always so spectacular.
Sinecrope with power position now, but good defense to stop the Huck from going up. And there appears to be a block. Malinowski going to call a foul on the play.
Like there was some contact made. She was going to stop rotation of the disc.
So foul, no contest? Foul, no contest. So it's your disc here.
Sure, no contest on the foul call. Very nearly a turnover, though. Allen just a hair late on the bid. Malinowski throwing into an easy turnover that time. Jessica Sourbeer in the area. Malinowski, not sure if that disc got caught on her fingers on the release or what, but not the throw she wanted, surely. Warren Boyle dropping it back to Fennig, now in the hands of Zhou. Tough throw. Zhou completes it. Fennig now looking for Pruka in the end zone, and that one connects. Grignon Thomas unable to find heroics for the second time. Scandal gets the break, and we are all tied up.
And for the second time, that's Fenning finding Peruka in the end zone for the Scandal break. Similar kind of throw, although an easier catch this time for Peruka. It's almost like those two have played together before.
They certainly have the chemistry that you see. That layout block from Grignon Thomas. Incredible defensive effort. Unfortunately for her, Brute Squad gave it back. And Fennig with a little more space to throw into a bigger window this time. Grignon Thomas unable to close the gap the second time. So great start here for the second half for Scandal. Didn't take them long to get the game back on serve.
Yeah, Scandal here, outscoring this Brute Squad 4 points to 1 in this second half. We talked about in the first half how they had break opportunities, and they just didn't seem like they had the legs to really complete the conversion. And they've certainly found the legs in Austin Peruka this half. And both she and Fenning will stay out for yet another D point from this DC's team.
It's Amy Zhou on the pole this time, though. It's usually a responsibility for Fennig. Fennig on the mark against Zhu. Zhu, wow, not sure that she was looking for Groom, but it's Groom who ends up with it. A mess of players in the area, really. Disc now with Synchrope. Big gainer to Trope, who won the battle underneath with Zhou. Worfley looking for the swing. I think maybe thinking he was automatically going to be there, but Fennig swats it away. And now Scandal with a chance to break for their first lead of the game. That one pops up, but Fennig able to adjust and get there. Now lasering a forehand to Zhou, but Claire Trope tracks it down, knocks it up in the air, and Amy Zhou makes the play anyway. Dream start here to the second half for Scandal. They take their first lead.
Well, this is not the second half I thought we were going to get from this Scandal squad. But they have found that spark. And Robin Fenning getting it done on both sides of the disc. First with this D, catches Angela Zhu not going to the disc on that reset. And then an incredible put. Claire Trope makes up the distance. Just can't get enough on that disc, and great composure by Zhou to just stay with the play.
That really was a tremendous effort by Trope just to get to that disc. Pretty unlucky the way she macked it up in the air. And this is something I talked about at the end of the first half, where it just didn't look like Scandal was getting any of those 50-50 plays, and they're coming down with just about all of them now here to start the second half, and that's been a big part of their quick comeback here. Brute Squad really struggling, creating turnovers and, having mistakes that we just didn't see them have in the first half.
Yeah, so Scandal taking the lead for the first time in this semifinals. And they'll give Peruka and Fenning a little bit of a rest, send out a fresh set of legs on this D point.
Brute Squad rotating a bit as well. Tajima hitting Grignon Thomas. Back in the hands of Tajima. Now Becky Malinowski. Wide open is Chow. Malinowski wins the foreside, now floating it over the top of Oldershaw. Grignon Thomas there, getting up over the defender for the grab. Brute Squad ends the run with a hold. Jessie Grignon Thomas having an impressive second half.
That's one for the highlight reel of a whole different sort, coming up big on the offensive side, getting up over the shoulder. Oldershaw, who had good position, really, really well read, and just going up at the highest point. She can feel that approaching defender coming on her back shoulder.
Grignon Thomas was new to Brute Squad last year, coming over from Quebec Iris. And I maintain, she was just a premier downfield threat for them all season long. I maintain that if she did not go out injured in the second half of the national championship game against San Francisco Fury, that Brute Squad would have hung on for the win in that one. That may be a hot take, but I feel comfortable saying that she was worth at least 1 point in those final few points in a game that really was an instant classic. We've got an instant classic brewing here between these two. Really just a storming performance here in the second half from Scandal. Megan, you said it. You did not expect it. I mean, we both thought they looked a little flat, a little dead in the water, maybe a little tired, resting on their laurels of already having a big win. But I mean, they've been spectacular here in the second half.
Yeah, I thought maybe, they came off, they knocked off the defending U.S. champions in Fury, and they got a little complacent. And they're like, oh, great, we already exceeded expectations. And that's kind of the team that they looked like going into halftime. But they have come out a team hungrier for even more. And, I think they have kind of shaken this Boston O-line that has been, very solid throughout this game and just really kind of made the most of some of the shots, as you said, that, we didn't expect to go their way.
So Brute Squad will try to get back on the upper hand. And we've been informed that we are now in level 1 heat advisory. So when one of these two teams gets to 12 points, we will take a 3-minute heat break. Miscue from Lord there. I think maybe too aware of the presence of lead. Didn't really attack that disc like you'd expect. It slips beyond her, and now a Brute Squad with a short field looking to retake the lead. Hannah Hankin with a nice little shimmy to get open. She continues to Kramer. So perfect point for Brute Squad. The miscue is returning for Scandal, really a pretty unforced turnover there, and Brute Squad will take it.
Yeah, we'll get a nice look at the offhand lefty here from Werfele to free up Hankin. Working with that short field. Brute Squad does a nice job to just be efficient, but Scandal's got to be feeling pretty frustrated with themselves. They had kind of taken over in terms of the momentum, and a point like that with an unforced error can be really deflating to an offense.
Yeah, I'm going to borrow a soccer term here. That goal really came against the rate of play. Scandal certainly in the ascendancy and looked like they could do no wrong, everything going their way those last few points. But Brute Squad, certainly a team that's going to make you pay for any little mistake like that. And they did so with a rotated D-line out there. Hannah Hankin has not played a ton of minutes, neither has Kramer, the two that combined for the score. So you're able to give players like Trope and Cinecrope and Cammie Groom a rest and still get a break. Brute Squad going to take that every single time. Normile with it under pressure, looking for Strick. Layout block, lots of contact on the play.
Yeah, she really had to go through her outside shoulder. She did get to the disc first, but got a lot of Strick on her way there.
Yeah, and Ray not contesting the foul call. Tremonte with it on the far sideline now. Normile giving it back to Tremonte and cutting strike, leaving Zoo behind. A couple of help defenders in the area, but Carolyn Normile bursting up the line for the score. Great give and go from the Scandal handler.
And really impressive awareness to sense that there were defenders closing in on that. And she goes up early, kind of catching it with that left hand as opposed to trying to run it out. I think Claire Trope probably would have gotten the better of her. Really intelligent play here from Normile.
Looking at that play again, I think it's pretty clear that Angela Zhu is expecting a roll, and you see her call for it there, asking for Tajima to drop back off the mark and take over, covering Normile. Miscommunication, it didn't make the switch in time, and Normile able to beat the help defenders over the top.
So nice aggressive play from Scandal's O-line there to seal their hold and keep them on track. As we said, we're in a heat advisory, so either way, depending who scores this point, we will be taking a break at the end of this point.
Scandal getting to send the D line back out there that's had so much success this half. Gonna try to retake the lead. Amy Zhou on the pole once again.
Which I think means we can expect to see Robin Fenning on one of those handlers.
Indeed we do. Looks like he's gonna take on Tulsa Douglas. Grignon Toma trying to find the reset, unable to do so, turns back upfield and throws into a block. So Scandal will have another chance to break. It's Kowalski with it. She brings it to Fennig, and Fennig is going to call timeout right at midfield. Scandal wants to make sure they get this break and retake the lead.
That was Wollaston who got the better of Malinowski, earning that block on the under and setting up Scandal here for an opportunity to take the lead late in the semifinals game with a break.
And it's very rare that good things happen when you, after looking downfield, you've turned to your handler looking for the reset and then are forced to turn back upfield. That's generally going to be a pretty low percentage throw. And that was the case. As we're taking a look, Grignon Toma, just the last second throw looking for Malinowski, but as Megan said, great defense from Wollaston. As the teams get set to come out of this timeout, we'll see if Scandal's able to take advantage. They've been much more efficient with their break chances in this half than they were in the first. Also been much better defensively. They have generated a lot more chances. It'll be Robin Fennig with the disc in her hands, which is where I think Scandal, if they could pick any player to have the disc in their hands right now, it would be Fennig.
We see Scandal set up in this split stack formation, leaving Fennig the entire center of the field to work with, starting from about half field.
And it's Pruka cutting from the handler space, but Malinowski step for step with her. Tulsa Douglas calling a stall on Fennig.
I couldn't hear it. Can you see her mouth?
I thought it was a fast count.
Okay.
I thought okay, so I think it was a fast count. She had picked up her cadence at 8, 9, 10.
Okay. You want to come to the observer for ruling? Okay. Observer ruling, not a stall, so it's staying here.
We could hear the observers having a conversation with each other, saying that they thought it was a fast count. So the completion does count. Boyle going to drop it right back to Fennig now. And wide open underneath. Easy continue from there. Looks like we might have a call, though, back in the stack. No, we don't. So Scandal gets the break. Some confusion downfield. But Scandal converts on the break on the other side of the timeout. They retake the lead.
I think Grignon Toma, the defender here, got a little tripped up. And you see her colliding with Elena Schwam, but she says, you know, it wasn't because of something that the Scandal cutter did. It was because I tripped on my own feet. Kind of a spirited no call there, but that gives Scandal the break and the advantage here. Late in this semifinal game, we're going to go into a water timeout.
Well, Megan, this one really setting up for a great finish. Just a few points left in this one. Excited to see how it plays out. We'll be right back to see how it does. Setting up for a spectacular finish here in this semifinal game between Washington, D.C. Scandal and Boston Brute Squad. Scandal currently holding a 1-goal lead. It'll be Boston on offense once we're done with this heat timeout. Megan, we were talking a little bit during the break between each other that this game really feels like a polar opposite to what we saw when these two teams played in pool play yesterday. Scandal jumping out to an 8-5 lead. Brute Squad with a really dominant performance in the second half to win fairly comfortably in the end. Scandal, though, has flipped that script. Now they're the team here with the late advantage.
Yeah, I think they came away from that pool play game yesterday, learning some lessons about how to finish a game, right? And that means when you're playing a team like Boston Brute Squad, not imagining that you can just trade your way out, right? This team is going to earn blocks. They're going to make you pay for mistakes. And I think early on in this game, we saw Scandal kind of content to let that happen. Their D-line would generate a few turns of their own, but they just didn't have the legs or the spark to finish it. And I think we've just seen a completely different Scandal team this second half from what we saw in the first. And I have to imagine that has something to do with, the lessons that they learned from playing this squad yesterday.
Yeah, Scandal has seemed to really up every aspect of their game here for the second half. And they've had a couple breaks go their way. But, I mean, good teams generate their own luck, they say. And I think they've had a big part in generating some of those chances to be fortunate and certainly deserve being in this game and having this lead with the way they've played in the second half. As we see the Brute Squad offense working quickly. Kemi Groom throwing to Schwamm and a big layout for the score. Alana Schwamm, great grab. Kemi Groom usually the one on the receiving end of plays like that, but asking a lot of her teammate there, and Schwamm steps up to the challenge.
This was just a clinic of working the open side. We saw under to Trope, under to Kemi, and then she lays out her teammate Alana Schwamm for this one. Schwamm clearly had steps when Groom started that throw. She probably didn't have to make her work this hard for it, but Schwamm up to the task, spectacular grab.
She just wanted to make her teammate look good, She knew Schwamm was going to get there. Great play from Alana Schwamm. Both teams really rising the bar in the highlight reel category here in the second half.
Schwamm, of course, returning to this team after fighting off, a battle with cancer. And it's so incredible to see her out here competing at these highest levels. And not just competing, but showing up. That grab was, this is ESPN highlight worthy right here.
Have to say I agree. And Megan Schwamm, definitely one of the more inspirational figures in the Ultimate world. Big part of the makeup of this Brute Squad identity. You see Scandal back out there on offense. Layout block from Holbert. A lot of contact. I thought there was going to be a foul call. It does not come from Tremonte, so Brute Squad will have a chance to retake the lead themselves.
Speaking of inspiration.
Yeah, no kidding. And a near point block from Lord. Warfully getting it back. Sacrificing more yardage to Chen. Clogging downfield, going to lead to a pick. But the Brute Squad offense struggling to find much of anything downfield.
Scandal doing a nice job with some handler switches here to deny some of those quick give-and-go movements.
Lee able to get open there, as is Negus. Warfully floats it for Chen. And now cutting strike. Excellent work from Warfully. Able to do all the work really in the red zone for Brute Squad, and they do get the break. These teams trading them back and forth right now. Boston back in front.
Well, we were talking about inspiration, and I have to feel like a big play like that on the previous point from Alana Schwamm inspired her teammate there in number 2, Sylvie Holbert, to get big on that block. And then I love this little break throw to Warfully to finish that play off. Really strong, decisive handler movement there. no dancing. Like, let's just punch this one in.
I have to admit, that Holbert block caught me off guard there a little bit. I didn't think she had any chance. I think a really tough lane for her to get to the disc first, but managed to do so. Holbert, another example of, even the players that you aren't super familiar with on this Brute Squad team, capable of spectacular defensive efforts. Holbert very much fits that description as you saw on that play.
And sometimes all it takes is one teammate showing exactly how much they're willing to give for other people to realize they have that in them too.
Yeah, I think Brute Squad may be having even more fun here in the second half than in the first half when things are very comfortable. Scandal started the fireworks the second half, but Brute Squad matching them for sure. To see Fourth winning that battle underneath on Kramer. Now Scandal out across midfield. A few backhands in a row, putting the disc here on the near sideline. Back to the middle now via Strick. And Valvo to the end zone for Fourth. Perfect offense from the Scandal O-line. They have to be happy with that.
When in doubt, go back to the well, and they started that play, that classic Katie Fourth strike across the front. But all of Scandal's cutters doing a really nice job to handle that forced middle that Brute was throwing at them, and you saw them all charging really hard to the break side and taking 2 steps back to the open side. Really just nice, smart, intelligent cutting from every one of those Scandal cutters that point.
You mentioned Katie Fourth, the goal scorer there. Have to shout her out, the ageless wonder at 43 years old. Still just bossing this game out there. She and her twin sister, Bex, both still playing the game at the highest level. I'd say it's really fun to watch.
They are perhaps one of the most impressive Frisbee siblings out there.
Definitely in the conversation for most impressive ultimate siblings.
Obviously, there's some stiff competition.
Oh, yeah.
Being as this sport runs in families. All right, so 13-13. Couldn't ask for a more exciting end to this semifinals matchup.
And I don't know that we've seen a team able to put together back-to-back holds offensively in this half. That's what Brute Squad will be trying to do to hold on to their advantage. But that throw from Trope looking for Grignon Thomas is off the target.
Scandal doing a little bit of loose marking and just results in the execution error from Boston.
Penning throwing over the middle, the poach interception from Chow snatches it right back. Cinecrope throwing behind Grignon Thomas, though, a nice mark, making it tougher for Cinecrope than she would have liked, but she does miss the open cutter downfield. So 3 turnovers exchanged there, back to back to back. Scandal now deep in their own territory. Fenig looking to flip the field, looking for Zhou deep. Chow again in the area, and she gets her second block of the point.
And an emphatic D. It is Fenig not able to put the distance on it that time. Zhou having to come back, and Brute makes the block.
So neither team able to make a completion to their own team at the moment. There's one as Tajima gets the easy reset to Cinecrope, and Cinecrope with a great break mark throw to Schramm, and Schramm airing it out looking for a Trope down the field, but that one's knocked away by Pedersen. Both teams trying to one-up each other with the defensive plays.
And right now, throwers on these deep shots are both just throwing a little bit behind their cutters, letting those defenders have a shot at these.
Oldershaw with the disc in her own end zone for Scandal. Now with Zhou. That one behind Fenig, but nice grab behind her. Now going for the big forehand for Oldershaw, who has steps. Oldershaw leaps, but is still short of the end zone. Quickly back to Peruka, and Scandal knocking on the door for a break. Pick called downfield. Doesn't affect the play at all, so it should stay with Boyle, I imagine.
And after trading of turnovers, Scandal able to complete their deep shot. It's about 10 yards out of the end zone now.
Disc with Fenig, a couple steps beyond the brick mark. Big layout grab to save from Fenig. And now Fenig and Tajima having a conversation.
What was called?
Not entirely sure what the call was there, but it'll be stall 0 between Tajima and Fenig.
I think she was saying she started her stall before Robin had even caught the disc.
Oh, Fenig not paying attention. Oldershaw not making eye contact with her target there. Tajima with the interception. Brute Squad coming back the other way.
Sneaky heads up D here from Tajima. She hits that lefty backhand.
Senecope thought about the hook downfield to Trope. Instead, comes underneath to Malinowski, who wants to go deep, but too far for Schwam.
Can't dig it out this time, and that throw not quite on the money in what is turning out to be a long, grinding point here at 13s.
Marathon point, and it's a crucial one with game to 15, and Scandal will call timeout. A break here would be absolutely huge. Give Scandal a big advantage in the last few points.
You know, Scandal, I think, really the team that is missing out on those opportunities. That point, you know, Laurel Oldershaw did a great job to shake free and find space and look to Peruka to try to find the give and go in the end zone. I really thought that Scandal was going to just have the patience to seal that possession, but a little bit of a miscommunication, a little lapse in, as you say, eye contact, and Tajima ready to pounce on that. I think Scandal has to be pretty frustrated with themselves after earning really good field position after a hard-won point to now have to start over again from their own end zone.
And Megan, I'd like to ask you, who do you put that turnover on? Do you put it on Oldershaw, who looked away from Fenig before going right back to her, or do you put it on Fenig, who you think maybe should have been ready for it?
Ooh. I have to put it on the thrower. I think you got to have eye contact.
Yeah, I agree. Oldershaw, you know, I think one of the first things they teach you, at least when I started playing Ultimate, was once you make eye contact with your reset, you keep eye contact until you've made the reset. And Oldershaw looking back up field, causing Fenig not to be ready for that throw, caught flat-footed. But Scandal does have the disc back.
Diving catch from Joe.
Yeah, off balance. Nice job hanging on. Fenig pops it over the top of Tajima.
Tajima smothering that defense there, but with the face guarding, able to find the reset anyways.
Scandal Cutters trying to dig deep. Right now, not cutting with a ton of conviction. Fenig airing it out to Oldershaw. Makes a great grab over Chow. Oldershaw getting up to make amends for the earlier error. Now Peruka turns over a forehand. Pedersen is there. Not sure if that's who Peruka was targeting. That's whose hands it ends up in for the score. Scandal does get the break on the marathon point.
And it wasn't the prettiest throw, and defenders were in the area, but Pedersen, after the bobble, makes the catch. Huge play. Puts Scandal up on top with the advantage here. Late in the semifinal, that nice grab by Oldershaw, and then we'll see the play that will finish it.
Trope not quite able to get there. Couple of big grabs from the downfield cutters for Scandal. That catch by Oldershaw in particular I thought was very impressive. Out of the hands of Fenig, I thought it was too short. I thought
we were going to say a replay of the the previous attempt at that connection.
Yeah.
Where Brute Squad got the better of the block, but this time Oldershaw finds that position. And, you know, that throw by Peruka is perhaps somewhere in the area of the throw that coaches say, hey, like maybe never throw that throw. That's a single, you know, same third huck. It's got a blade. There's 2 more people in the area. There was another cutter and another defender. But as you said, you know, the story of the second half has been Scandal coming down with the ball when they've been in that position. And, you know, I think we just saw the most consequential example of that, putting them up here with the advantage late in this game.
Sometimes when things are just going your way, it's the right call to just put it up there. So now, tough task ahead for Brute Squad. They'll need a hold and then a break on double game point to win. Again, a spot in the U.S. Open final on the line here between these two teams. Been a truly fantastic back and forth second half.
You know, I think, you know, Boston was obviously expecting to be in a position like this in a tough game, trying to make their way to finals. They probably didn't expect to be seeing a rematch of their pool play contenders in Scandal, and probably not to be on the receiving end of, you know, of a disadvantage kind of this late in the game. But, you know, they are the national caliber team that we have come to expect them to be for a reason. And I just feel like in this moment, it's anybody's game.
Definitely. My question for the Scandal team ahead of this weekend was, are they a team that is going to challenge Molly Brown to be that 4th team in semifinals, or are they a team that's going to challenge everyone for national championship? I think regardless of how this game plays out, they have answered that definitively, that they are national championship contenders, right along with Brute Squad. And Brute Squad going to have to pull off some late magic here, get this hold. Juliana Warfleet, big gainer to Ray. Nice snag by Warfleet to save. Bit awkward for her, but she makes the catch. Lee cutting across the field.
Some smart switching downfield by Scandal. Cami Groom finds a window.
Near block from Allen. Nice cut from Zoo. And Joe had come over to help. Not made to pay for leaving her mark. Brute Squad knocking on the door. Offhand flip into the end zone for Lee, who won that front corner. So Brute Squad gets the hold. We will see double game point.
That is the second double game point in a row this Scandal squad has stared down so far this morning. Come away the better of the 2 previously. This instance, they'll receive the disc to start, get a chance to just march the disc down, but sometimes that's a lot easier than it, or a lot less easy than it sounds.
We saw Robin Fenig out there. So, you know, I think some teams would decide to rest a player like Fenig on a D point like that and save her for the final point of the game. But they clearly wanted that break to end it right then and there. Unable to get the turnover. Nice offense from Brute Squad.
And so we'll see the return of Scandal's offensive line that was cranking so smoothly this morning. See Katie Forth, Carolyn Normile, Kath Radcliffe.
Notably, no Robin Fenig, though. No Austin Pruka either. But Scandal trusting their more conventional O-line here on this double game point. Very strong line out there for Brute Squad. Sinecrope, Tajima, Trope, Zoo, Ray, Wong, and Groom all out there. Katie Forth, as she has done so often this game, getting open with that first cut, but her huck to the end zone, too flat. So Brute Squad will take over with a chance to break for the win. Tajima trotting back to pick up.
We've seen that Forth Gorman connection work for Scandal so many times, but that huck just too much of a laser, giving Brute the opportunity here.
The look was there, the execution was not. So Brute Squad takes over. Awesome around throw from Cinecrope to hit Zoo. Cinecrope spreading the disc, the full width of the field both ways those last couple of throws. Cassie Wong totally unmarked. Brute Squad approaching midfield, and there they cross it. Cinecrope back to Tajima. Getting it right back to Cinecrope. Starting to look like she's going to take over this point. Tajima swings to Zoo. Brute Squad looking for the break to win and seal their spot in the U.S. Open final. Back with Cinecrope, little behind Trope, but she's able to get there.
Oh, Claire Trope was incredibly open.
Cami Groom is open too. Cinecrope hits her in the front of the end zone for the goal to break and win. Exciting back and forth second half. Brute Squad has just enough in them to get the win in the end. They're moving on to the final.
So despite a late run and a late push by this Scandal team, Brute able to outlast them, and really impressive work by Amber Cinecrope that last point to dictate the field of play, work through all those poaches, and love this finish, finding Groom in the front cone on that break side.
Tremendous game from both teams, particularly in that second half. One I think we will remember for quite some time, but Boston Brute Squad comes out on top just barely, 15-14 over Washington, D.C. Scandal. For Megan Molteni, I've been Daniel Prentice. Thanks for tuning in.
Wow, wow, wow.
Every time the pressure rises, we play better. Let's go, take down the trail.
An Ultiworld subscription gets you closer to the players and personalities you care about with game video, in-depth written and video analysis,
He's going to take off deep, but what he does is very simple.
documentary shorts,
And we've played Brute Squad before, and it just feels a little bit harder to lose this year.
and a whole lot more. To get your subscription or learn more, go to ultiworld.com/subscribe.